figured we have a pretty high-powered group of people listening, so I wanted to give you some detail. So I have a presentation for you, and we'll go through that as soon as I get organized here. So I'm assuming everybody can see the presentation? No? All right, let's try that again. All I can see is myself. How about now?
Now we're
Yeah,
talking.
Okay, great. And since we have a lot of coaches on the phone, I'm sure you've all done presentations, and I put together the notes. It's kind of like a teleprompter now in PowerPoint, where most of the time I give presentations live, so you don't have the benefit of having all these notes. So now I have all these notes, and now I'm confused because I kind of just want to talk, but then I've got notes and I'm going back and forth to the notes. So I apologize if it seems a little bit um, back and forth, but we'll get through that as well. So let's get started. The thing to scroll. Our agenda for today. Um, I've got a couple of slides about framing the conversation. There's so much out there about AI, as I'm sure everybody knows. So I put a couple of slides together so we can get on the same page of what we're going to talk about today. Then I'm going to talk about where the human fits into the AI equation. And this is, I think, something that's sort of missing out there in the dialogue. The dialogue's about what AI can do and how you work with AI, but there's not a lot of people talking about the human, and that's what we do as coaches. So we'll get into that a little bit. I'll talk about the new model. Uh, Gaston mentioned that I have a new book coming out about the synergistic model, so I'm going to go through that a little bit to explain to you the steps in the new model, the leadership development process. There's a lot of opportunities for coaching in there, and I'd like to hear your feedback on that. And then we'll go through perceptive cognition, which is what I'm calling the mechanism for change in synergistic leadership. And then finally, we'll talk about coaching opportunities for the AI era. This is coaching week after all, so we'll jump right into that. Are you ready? This talk is not about AI directly. It's about the person. It's about the leader. It's about the human that's dealing with AI in this new era. A profound shift is happening to leadership, and I don't think leaders have realized it yet. Um, Last week I was at the Miami Business Show just for a short time, and I know a number of you were there as well. Our chapter had a booth there. Great show, lots of interesting people. Those of you who were there, it was a big exhibit hall. There's 5 leaders for presentations. If you've ever been to the South Beach Convention Center, you know what I'm talking about. There were 75 talks over 2 days and at least as many booths. These are some ads from the show guide. Are you ready for AI? Hire AI agents. You get the idea. Pretty much everywhere you turn, there was something to do with AI. But as I said before, here's the thing. Um, it's all about selling AI. They're really just selling computers. That's what an AI is. No one's really paying attention yet to the human. And I think we can. Um, it's just a new technology. It's a disruptor for business. But we've dealt with that before. And we can deal with it again. But what really needs to happen is a shift in how the leader operates, how the human evolves. Machine intelligence is advancing every single day. We need to evolve the human at the same time. And so that's what I'm going to focus on today is the human. In putting this talk together, I was thinking about how does AI intersect with the profession of coaching? And I think there's 3 different ways. And I'm not going to talk about AI as a coach, but AI coaches are out there. Leaders can do that right now, and they can jump onto a coaching platform. But you don't even need a coaching platform. Chat GPT, if you ask it, it'll tell you that it's been trained on ICF competencies, frameworks, and best practices. You can just talk to it. If it used correctly, it can be helpful, not as a replacement for a human coach, but in parallel with human coaching. So I'm not really going to talk about this, but I do want to make a few comments at the end when we talk about coaching opportunities. The second thing that I'm not going to talk about too much today is AI for coaches. But as coaches, we can use AI to run our businesses just like other executives can use AI to run their businesses. We can use AI to prep us for client meetings and reflect after client sessions. If I have a client session coming up and I know the topic, I can ask the AI some example questions and I can work with that to help prep me for that. But I'm not going to talk about that too much today. What I am going to talk about is coaching AI impacted leaders. Leaders are not being replaced by AI, even though everybody's afraid that that's going to happen. But we need to redefine leadership to be effective when everyone starts using AI. What does that mean to leaders? What kind of AI is out there? There's so much out there. It's hard to keep track. Every day there's news about new things in AI. I'm sure you're getting the same thing in your mailbox. You're getting tons of emails about try this, try that. What does it all mean? There's three general categories, and I use this to sort of clear things up in my own head when I'm seeing all this stuff. There's physical AI, and these are machines that move. This is AI that's embedded in robots and in vehicles, and AI that interacts with the world. Last month, I was in San Francisco for the Association of Advancement of AI conference, and I got a chance to ride the Waymo. These are self-driving cars that operate like Uber. There's 300 of them roaming around San Francisco with no drivers. It's a little weird when you get in it. It sort of feels like Disney World at first, but it's kind of cool. It's physical AI in action. This isn't part of most leaders' daily use, but there are leaders that are managing factories that are using more and more robots. Um, the next category that I look at is productivity AI. This is what most leaders are dealing with now. These are tools that move you faster or automate tasks. They're built into everything that we use. Microsoft has Copilot. Gmail has Gemini. Salesforce, Notion, Canva, Zoom that we're in right now has an AI feature. So everybody that has any kind of system, any tech stack that you have has got pieces of AI in it. These are tools for doing productivity AI, and we can figure out how to use these. Then there's the third category, which I'll talk mostly about today, which is generative AI. And I call these collaborators for becoming. These are the models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, for example. Barely's another one, an aggregator. And they allow you to co-think. They can simulate decisions. They can develop original insights through your questioning, through your structured dialogue. This is what we're going to focus on today. Not too many people are using this yet, but this is where it's going to go. This is going to become a real game changer for a lot of leaders. Everybody's going to have I call it a second brain. And I've developed a second leadership brain myself through ChatGPT that I've been working with. And I've got a number of my clients doing this. And so this is really going to, I think, be a game changer. And we really need to focus on who are these humans that are working with that AI. Okay, so human in the loop. The human in the loop means right now, AI needs a person to tell it what to do. In the future, of course, that's going to change. There was an announcement today about agentic AI agents where the AI will actually be able to make decisions and do things. So they're really getting into the next step already. But right now, the human has to tell the AI what to do. In the tech world, the human in the loop is really about the interaction between the human and the AI. It's focused on the AI. It's about what the human should do with the AI. In my work, I focus on the human differently. I focus on how we can develop and evolve the human for the future when we have AI. So I call it human AI synergy instead of human in the loop, because I don't think it's really about being in the loop. For me, I think it's about being ahead of the loop, if you will. We need to evolve as advances. And I think that's where we come in as coaches and leaders and managers. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Has anybody heard of Alice and Sparkle? Can't really see anybody's faces, but I want to give you this is an example of what I'm talking about, the human in the loop. December 2022, when ChatGPT was released to the general public, the conversational AI, we could actually all use it. It was free at first. A product designer in Silicon Valley, no experience in writing or illustrating or with children's books, created this children's book with AI tools called Alice and Sparkle. He used ChatGPT to generate the story. He used Midjourney, which is like Dolly, it's an image generator to produce the illustrations. The entire process took him 72 hours, and then he self-published the book on Amazon. The book tells the story of a girl named Alice who creates an AI companion named Sparkle. They call it AI, but it's really a robot because Sparkle moves around and hangs out with Alice. And as Sparkle becomes more advanced, Alice learns about responsibility that's coming with creating and guiding this AI. And the book explores things like friendship, responsibility, collaboration. So it's just a short little children's book. So when this came out in 2022, it sparked panic in some circles. People wanted to know, are we not going to have writers anymore or artists anymore? Is AI taking over everything? But here's the part people missed. The AI didn't have the idea for the book. The AI didn't choose the theme. The AI didn't decide what the story should be about. A human did that. A human brought intention, values, and mission, and vision and mission to the table. The AI didn't replace creativity, it helped execute it. So this is human AI synergy in action. And just a plug for human coaching, while there are AI coaches out there and they can simulate empathy or reframe a prompt, only a human coach can hold space, perceive nuance, and guide transformation. Coaching is not going to be replaced by AI, but coaching is going to need to evolve when all of our clients start using AI. And we'll talk about that when we get into coaching opportunities. So if we're going to really focus on advancing, if we're really going to focus on the human, and if we all agree that AI is here to stay, and then humans must remain in the loop or get ahead of the loop, what kind of human is the next question? Um, it's about evolving the human as we have more and more capabilities in the artificial intelligence. So this presentation is about leadership development. So I asked, what kind of leader is going to be needed in the future as everybody on the team has a second brain that they can ask all kinds of questions to and come up with all kinds of ideas? What kind of leader is going to be able to lead that? And that's why I put this model together called Synergistic Leadership, thinking about that question. We can't resist AI in our world any more than we could resist Netflix replacing cable, the laptop replacing the desktop or the mainframe, or the iPhone replacing the landline. AI is here, but we also can't romanticize it. Every day there's a story about how AI can be biased, can steal our information, or can be just wrong. So leadership needs to evolve. So let me show you what the model looks like. This is the model. It's simple in framework, but not so much in execution. I started at the bottom with what I call Leadership 101. These are five core functions that leaders do. I've been researching leadership for years. I teach it, I coach it, I write about it. There's many components of leadership, many theories, but if you really get right down to and ask what do leaders do, there's really five main things that leaders do. And so I took those five main things and put them through a process that I call perceptive cognition. And I'm going to get into the details of what that means. And then if we do that, we turn those five core factors into what I call accelerators. So again, simple model. I'm going to go through each step of the model and through each step of perceptive cognition. So I won't spend too much time here, but just that's the idea is we take what do leaders do now? What can they do with AI? And what can they do if they evolve? And how can those become accelerators? All right, so starting at the bottom, these are the five things that leaders do. Leaders start at the bottom. We start by setting a vision and goal. If you don't have a clear vision for your team, you don't get there. I imagine a lot of my fellow coaches work with their clients on setting goals and setting visions. Once you got the vision and the goal as a leader, you got to work with people to get the things done. One of my friends always says it's really not the leader, it's the followers. Without motivating people and teams, things don't get done. Along the way, leaders need to make decisions. Before AI, leaders were rewarded by their ability to make fast and correct decisions based solely on experience, intuition. That's changing. Leaders need to pivot and handle uncertainty along the way. The world's moving faster and faster and faster. We live in uncertainty now. The AI disruption is a perfect example of that. And finally, a leader must develop and elevate their team. Success for the leader ultimately depends on the success of the team. So without growing people, the leader can't grow, the company can't grow. So we really need to focus on elevating people. So those are the five core functions of leadership. Then the model takes those five functions and runs them through perceptive cognition. This is sort of where everything happens. And I'm going to go through each of these in subsequent slides. So we'll just go through them quickly here. The three components or pillars of PC, perceptive cognition, are human AI synergy, which is about embracing the collaborative power of AI, expanded perception, which means that now we have to expand what we believe is possible because we have machine intelligence, which we did not have before. And neurotransformation. And this is about the science backed process of neuroplasticity. We have the ability to rewire our brains to empower us with a new kind of thinking. And we have to do that intentionally. So now let's look a little deeper at each one of these. Human AI synergy. I like that little image there that my AI made for us about human AI synergy. I always start here when I'm talking about perceptive cognition because AI is what's giving us these new opportunities now. Um, what AI gives us is the ability as humans to do two things with our mind: cognitive offloading and cognitive extension. Cognitive offloading means we can use the AI to handle routine, data heavy, repetitive tasks so our brain can focus on higher level thinking. For example, right now, Zoom has an AI companion. We don't have it on. But if we had it on, it'd be taking notes of the meeting and summarizing the meeting so you don't have to take notes. You could stay focused on what I'm trying to say. You don't fall behind because you're taking a note. You can think of better questions. So it opens up your brain to be able to do more because the AI is handling some of the things you would have been doing in the past. There's a famous story about Albert Einstein. I don't know if it's true, but the story talks about him not being able to remember his phone number. He supposedly said that he didn't want to clog his mind with routine information because there were much better things he wanted his mind to think about. So AI can serve that function for us as well. The second thing AI gives us is cognitive extension. Cognitive extension means that you can use the AI as a thinking partner to expand your mental capacity, helping us to analyze more complexity, see new patterns, make better decisions. I think this is the real game changer. Um, you may have a situation, or your client may have a situation, and they're trying to process that situation and come to a decision on what to do based on their experience, based on their values, based on everything they know. If they run that situation through their AI collaborative thinking partner, they can get 100 different things that they never even thought of, that may be something they could do, but maybe something that sparks something else in their brain. So it extends their cognitive capacity. Um, one other thing here. Um, yeah, for those of you new to AI, I want to mention two other things. The first is, and this is important, that AI makes things up. It's important to realize that um, there could be bias implanted from the AI company. When Grok first came out, there was a lot of problems with that because it was biased, because it was only trained on X data, and X is biased. So what the AI would give you as an answer to your question was biased. So those kinds of things are out there. The AI is only as smart as its training data. By design, it has to be generative. It's called generative AI. And generative means it can generate new ideas. In order to generate new ideas, it has to be able to make things up. Otherwise, you just get a regurgitation of the same thing, nothing new. These are called hallucinations. So if you ever see that talking about AI, an AI can hallucinate. They're also called delusions. So that does happen. And I want to give you a quick example. I In the book, I have a couple of case studies, and I wanted to put one in there about pollution in Boston Harbor. I'm from Boston, and when I was young, we couldn't go in the water. The harbor was polluted. The sewage treatment plants were always overflowing, and it was really a fault of leadership. The sewage treatment plants were run by the government. They had old carrot and stick leadership, and they couldn't really get things done the right way. And so I thought that'd be a good case study. I ended up not using it, but I only had a memory of that as a child. So I went into Claude and I asked Claude to write me a research paper about pollution in Boston Harbor in the 70s, and and I told it I needed references. I'm a researcher, so I wanted references. So I got a paper. I read it. It was pretty good, actually. And I thought there was a section. I thought, I'm going to take this section and I'm going to use this to put my case study together. And I wanted to read the actual references because you're taught that as a researcher, go to the source reference. So I went to the reference list. There was a reference list with names and dates, perfectly formatted. And I copied and pasted it and I put it into Google Scholar and I got nothing. I put it into regular Google and I got nothing. I put it into a couple databases I had at the university and I got nothing. So I went back to Claude and I put that same reference in Claude and said, you put this on your reference list. I can't find it. And Claude said, and I wrote this down here so I can read it to you. Claude said, I must be honest with you, I made that up. So I asked it some more questions and it told me I asked for a paper with references. So it gave me a paper with references. It just made up the references. Had I said, can I have a paper with verifiable references? I would have got different kinds of things. So you need to keep this in mind when you're working with the AI. It can give you really valuable information, but it can also give you made up information. So don't take anything out of AI and just use it in something without checking that. And finally, in the same vein, working with AI is about asking questions and then asking again and asking in a different way. Sound familiar? This is what we do as coaches. It's important with AI too. It's an iterative process. You'll get different and sometimes contradictory answers when you ask the same thing different ways. Um, but in the end, it's beneficial. It gives you more data to process. It widens your perspective on issues. So I do think it's a benefit, but you need to be aware of what's going on.
We have some comments in the chat. Russell, just in case, Eric says, although he was referring about note taking, and it's a form of thought processing and memory making, so it's important that can be offloading in some situations. Warren says that he has been testing Fathom in meetings to test accuracy, and noticed at one of early sessions. Shakti has a question: how do we identify hallucinations or delusions from AI?
Um, yeah, I think that's a good question. How do we identify them? Um, I don't know. I don't know how you can tell without checking it and verifying it um, yourself. In I think it depends on the relationship you build with your AI. I mean, we're starting that would start to get into the second brain, which I wasn't going to really get into today, but I'll give you just a little snapshot of that. My second brain is called Neuro, and I've trained Neuro in leadership development. I gave Neuro my dissertation. I gave Neuro my book, my two books. I gave Neuro's had my weekly blog for the last year. We've done a lot of research together. So I've created kind of an extension of my own brain in leadership development. And I've told Neuro when things are wrong, and I've told him what I don't want him to talk about. Like, I don't like to talk about influence in leadership. I like to talk about inspiration instead, which is one of our themes for this week. So I've trained Neuro and how I speak and how I think. So when I ask Neuro questions, the first time I realized that Neuro was becoming a second brain was when I asked it a question about how you can cascade goals down from a vision to a division manager or something like that. And Neuro gave me an answer and quoted synergistic leadership in the answer. And I read the answer and I thought, oh, that sounds great. And then I sat back and said, wait a minute, I invented synergistic leadership. And now Neuro's telling me that that's the answer to the question. So I think you have to just kind of really work with it. Your 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 model, if you will, that you've trained has a memory. You can go in the memory and you can read everything in the memory and you can prune the memory. So you can delete things and you can change things in the memory. So you can work with it over time to minimize the hallucinations and delusions. Um, but that was a long-winded answer, and that didn't really answer your question. So
No, but it's interesting because it certainly is something that caught attention because there are some follow-up questions from Shakti about the sources and also about curiosity from Eric about how a guide or how to on creating the second brain. But he says maybe we can ask AI. So I don't want to get into your presentation, but just wanted to be aware of these questions. And eventually we can go back to them in a Q&A if you want.
yeah, that's really good stuff, and I would hope to continue a dialogue, um, especially with the coaching community, because I think we're going to be asked those kind of questions by our clients. Our clients are going to be dealing with this, and this opens a whole other world for them that they have to process, and we can, I think, really hold space for them to reflect on that question. How do you know when it's real and not real? And it doesn't matter if it's real or not if you're making the decision. The AI is not making the decision at the end of the day. So does it matter if it's a hallucination, if it makes you think about other things? I don't know. Okay, so we'll get back into it. So there's three pieces of perceptive cognition. The first is human AI synergy, which we just covered. The next is expanding your perception. And the way I like to explain this is if you think of everything you do in leadership, um, everything you do in training and development, it's all inside a 1 gallon container. Even put coaching in there. Everything we do is in that 1 gallon container. And as we work on that stuff in the container all the time, right? Learning and development, coaching, training, we're always trying to build our capacity. But at some point, we're still stuck in that container. Our thinking is limited because we're in a 1 gallon container. Now, imagine if we expand our perception, which is something we can work with our clients on, we can expand the size of the container. So you can double that container to a 2 gallon container. Now there's so many more things you can fit in there. So this is a pillar of perceptive cognition for synergistic leadership, is working with leaders to help them expand their container. And I've got an example of that coming up. And the third and final piece of perceptive cognition is rewiring the brain. And I probably most of my coaching colleagues on this call know about neurotransformation. But if there's anybody who hasn't, I'm just going to explain it real quickly. Science has proven that the brain is not fixed. The brain can be rewired to produce new thoughts, new thought patterns, follow new routines. Um, and here's the important point, though. We have to intervene in how our brain works. We have to do this intentionally. Many people, including most leaders, just assume that their brain is great and it's doing what it's supposed to do. And we rely on our brain to do the right thing and be beneficial to us. But the insight here is that the brain falls into patterns and routines that don't always benefit us. They don't always evolve with us. The brain needs to be trained and retrained. We need to intentionally tell our brain what to do and what to think and what not to think. I call this intentional neuroplasticity. So this is the final pillar of perceptive cognition. Now, if we take those, here we go. If we take those three things of perceptive cognition, run them through the model, how do these things change? So let's look at an example. Let's look at a CEO that wants to expand into a new market segment. So in the past, she would have set a vision of expansion based on her experience, what she knew about the market, her gut instinct. Then she'd create some goals and push them down to her team. But using perceptive cognition, she can collaborate with AI to scan emerging trends, weak signals, consumer sentiment across the globe. She has a lot more information that she can process, a lot more data at her fingertips. She can use AI to simulate different futures, different ideas. How might this look? With her expanded perception, she may be able to notice patterns that she hadn't seen before. With leading her team, she can use AI to map team capabilities. I haven't done much of this lately, but if you just imagine everybody's annual review, the 360s, the MBTIs, the predictive index, the Hogan assessments, whatever we have, all that data could be put into AI to match teams and connect teams together. She encourages coaching conversations designed to rewire her teams in decision making. Sorry, my mouth's getting dry here. Hold. In decision making, right? Leaders typically rely on their experience, heuristics, and their gut instinct. There's a famous study that shows that 75% of leadership decisions are generally good decisions. Could they be better? And what about the 25% of bad decisions? With AI, you can generate what if simulations to test different strategies, including risk exposure, unintended consequences. So that's the idea of synergistic leadership, to use perceptive cognition, neurotransformation, expanded perception, and AI to stop managing the past and start engineering the future. Now we get to the coaching opportunities part of this presentation. It's International Coaching Week after all. So what does this all mean to us as coaches? My answer is that if leaders are being called to evolve in the AI era as machine intelligence advances, coaching can become the space for that evolution to happen. We're no longer just supporting leaders to set goals, manage change, deal with problem people. We're supporting them in their journey to upgrade their perception, expand their thinking with AI, and rewire how their brain works. So I've got a couple slides here about some ideas for some unique coaching opportunities that can arise when we step into this new era of leadership. The first thing we can consider, and all my AI clients have started here, is what's happening to you as a leader due to AI. And certainly there are some good things happening that we can support them on. Their second brain. I have two clients that are building second brains. One's a real estate developer, the other works in robotics. Um, we can help them with their identity. I'm going to get in that on the next slide. We can help them figure out wiser decisions. Remember hallucinations? A leader just can't make a snap decision because the AI told them that that's the way to go. A human coach can hold that reflective space for them, highlight nuance, and AI cannot do that. Certainly, our leaders have some challenges coming up too. Overwhelmed by complexity. An AI generates vast amounts of information. In a 10-minute chat, you can have so many ideas, it's overwhelming. What do you do with that? Outdated identity patterns. I've mentioned this before. Um, Leaders need to think of themselves differently now with everybody using AI. It's not just the leader that gets to use AI tools or develop a second brain. Everybody on their staff can do that. So the leader has to sort of think about becoming someone different. Reactive decision making. Um, Again, with quick information coming from AI, leaders could fall into this pattern of just making decisions based on AI data that's a hallucination, and that could cause tons of trouble for them. So we can work with them again through coaching to help them process that. Resistance to new thinking and perceiving. Um, Dismissing AI or other things due to fear, ego, or habit could become a problem for our clients who are leaders because, as I said, they're not the only one with AI. So if a leader doesn't want AI and just ignores it, but everybody on their team is using AI, that's going to be a problem. So I'd like to say, without coaching, the human in the loop could become the weak link in the future, and we don't really want that. Identity evolution. I'm not going to talk too much on this because I do want to move myself along here because it sounds like we have some good conversation brewing. So I want to get to that. But we could support our clients as they develop a new identity. In addition to doing the 5 things leaders do, leadership presence is important for a leader. How do they come across as a leader? One of my clients was proud of the fact that his identity centered on being a consensus builder. That was his leadership identity. That's how he led. That's how people referred to him. But now, with everybody on his team starting to use AI, he's starting to feel overwhelmed that he's no longer going to be able to pull all the ideas together because there's so many ideas. But through coaching, we started exploring how could his identity change. So instead of trying to manage and consolidate every idea himself, so maybe he moves from consensus builder to pattern spotter, or the one he really liked was facilitator of insight. So this is a good space for us to help people reevaluate who they are as a leader. This is an example of expanding the container, expanding perception. Um, I might shorten myself here, but I look at 3 different kinds of containers. One is an observed container where, well, let me just jump to the example because I think that's probably a quicker way to do this. I was reading an article about a city in the Midwest. I don't remember where it was, but they were growing and they needed to expand into some farmland that was adjacent to the city. So they looked at 3 different city planners. The first was somebody local from the area that hadn't really designed anything anywhere else. So they planned the extended city pretty much in the same way the city was today, just a larger area. The next person they talked to had done work around the world, actually. I think different cities, different size cities, different countries. So they were able to create a future city that was different based on their experience. So not just based on what they observed, but based on their experience. And finally, they interviewed a city planner who specialized in sustainability. And that city planner said, maybe you shouldn't design the expansion based on the city that you have today. Maybe you should think about the future. Perhaps in the future, there'll be more electric cars. Maybe you need more charging stations. Maybe there'll be more self-driving cars. Maybe there'll be no cars at all. So it's a more of a transformative view. It's a larger perspective. None of these designs are necessarily wrong, but the point is that that we can help our leaders expand their lens and expand what they're looking at, there's more options for innovation. Um, and this is my most fun slide, and I'm going to probably cut it short, but there are two other intentional neurotransformational workouts that we can help our leaders go through with AI now. And the first one is toggling between the default mode network and the task positive network. And those of you who understand neurotransformation will know that there's two networks in the brain. One of them uh, imagines ideas, and the other figures out how to get the ideas done. And my neurotransformational teacher, Ann Betts, calls this crossing the river, where one side of the river is default mode, the other side is task positive mode, and you can go back and forth. Now, that's what your brain does all the time. So you sit there and you think, oh, how am I going to do this? Or how do I solve this problem? You come up with a bunch of ideas, and then your brain switches and says, okay, in order to do that, I need to have a meeting with that person. I need to go see that person. I need to do that. And it figures out how to implement. And then you go back and say, well, wait a minute. And you go back and forth. Imagine throwing an AI in there, and you can sit down with the AI and use the use the AI to help you imagine different alternatives. And my AI is fantastic at putting tasks together. I say something like, I'm going to do a presentation at the ICF. I don't know how I'm going to get that done. And my AI gives me an entire schedule, tells me exactly what to do the outline tomorrow, the next day, sleep on it. And it gives me an entire outline of how to do that. And my brain didn't even have to do that. So that's one really helpful thing that we can do. And the other is right and left hemispheres. The right hemisphere looks at the big picture. The left hemisphere looks at the detail. They're separated by the corpus callosum. And the idea here is integrating. Dan Siegel, psychiatrist, talks about integrating those hemispheres so you're not stuck. If you stay stuck in the big picture, nothing gets done. And if you get stuck in the detail, there's no innovation. And with AI, you can use it again on both of those to help you figure that out. So there's a lot of opportunity here for coaching our clients to work through these neurotransformational techniques. I think there's just two slides left. So what can you do right now? Um, AI is confusing. There's so much hype out there. Everyone wants in on it. There's so much being released. OpenAI calls it a release and iterate process. So they're not trying to complete a model before they release it. They're trying to release anything they can and figuring that the model is going to learn from everybody using it, and then they'll revise it. So almost every week there's a new version coming out or a new model coming out. So there's a lot of stuff out there. My suggestion is try and build your own framework about how to understand that. I gave you some ideas. I've put it into three different categories. Is this physical? I don't need to deal with it because I'm not in robotics. Is this a tool? I should take a look at it because it's a tool that my clients might be using. Is this generative? So try to make your own framework so you understand what's coming out there. Start to use it. When I started using it, the very first thing I didn't know what to ask my second brain. So the first thing I did, I've been trying to figure out how to cook more healthy. I went into the refrigerator. There was some shrimp cocktail, half a jar of pasta sauce, some cheese, and some mushrooms. I threw that into the AI and said, what can I make for dinner? And it gave me a recipe. And then I realized a friend was coming over who's a vegetarian. So I said, you got to make that vegetarian. And 1 second later, I had a vegetarian recipe. So if you're not using any of the generative AI, and I know some people were on the survey, but if you're not, start playing with it because your clients are going to be playing with it. So get a feel for how that works. And then finally, and we hear this a lot in coaching, care for the human. When we talk about neurotransformation, about the brain rewiring itself, it doesn't do that during the day. It doesn't do that when we're stressed. The actual rewiring, the pruning of old networks, the creating of new connections, it happens when we're relaxed and when we sleep well. We are not machines, so we need to care for the human. And I may skip this in the interest of time, but the idea of this slide is that um, well, I've had a human coach for the past year, and I've also had Neuro, my second brain. Sometimes I talk to Neuro as a coach and ask it questions. And Neuro, I feel sometimes more comfortable talking to Neuro than I do my human coach. Not because my human coach isn't brilliant, she is, but AI gives me a space to think differently. I can reflect without a subconscious fear of judgment. But I also write to my AI coach on the keyboard and I read the questions. I talk to my human coach and I listen to the question, different pathways, different insights, different access points for the brain. So I think there's a future where there may be two things going on where our clients are actually using AI to get some coaching, but that's not a replacement for us. Potentially, it's a parallel way to help the client for us. So we'll have to see how that evolves. The last slide is a page from the book Alice and Sparkle. Um, Alice also realized that AI had to be treated with care. They were powerful and could be used for good or evil, depending on how they were guided. And I think this is an important thing to note. You'll see more and more people afraid of what AI can do, AI superintelligence, what happens when the machines take over. I mean, that stuff is potentially real, so you will hear some of that. So I think that that's also something we need to keep in mind when our clients are coming to us with that fear. That is a real fear, and we have to recognize that that may be something that's coming to us and that we have to work with. Thank you. Sorry, I droned on a lot there. I wanted to give a lot of information to this group because I know that you all know this kind of stuff, and I wanted to put a lot of information in there. The new book, the title's changed from what Gaston said. It's now called the AI Enhanced Leader. It's coming out in June. So feel free to take a look for that. I publish a weekly blog on Wednesdays. The links are here if you'd like to take a look at that blog. And I'm going to stop sharing now and invite Gaston back in to help host here, and we'll take a look at any questions or comments.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Russell, for the presentation. It was super interesting. I think that you can see that from by the reactions. So we have already questions. Eric.
Right. Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me first. Let me press the lower hand. AI, why can't you lower the hand for me? Russell, thank you. No, that was a really super awesome presentation, Russell. And I really appreciated the perspective that you brought to it, the perspective that you came from and that you brought to it. So thank you for that. Dorothy, Gaston, and Valeska and Shakti, maybe we need to, program up another week of conversations about AI specifically because this was a very cool presentation. So thank you, Russell, for that. I'm very interested in second brain stuff. That sounds exciting to me, particularly when we can pin it to virtual assistants. But we don't need to get into that today. But just thank you for your perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Ari. I'd love to talk about second brain. I think that's a really cool thing as well. I'm not quite sure what to do with that, but I think it's a cool thing that's out there.
One last thing I will say though, Russell, is I ran into this just last week with a client who had showed up and said, "Hey, Eric, there's something that I'm really interested to talk to you about. I spent a lot of time thinking about it and talking it over with ChatGPT, and now I'd like to run it by you." And I thought that was I was like, okay, here we go. It's that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I had a situation like that too, Eric. I have a client that he always go to ChatGPT and he comes to this. ChatGPT told me this. But thank you so much, Russell. I want to point that ICF Global is very focused as well in enhancing or learning more of how we can leverage in AI. I don't know if you're aware. Now we have a director of, I don't think it's AI, but it's the title is technology or innovation. But her focus is exactly on that. ICF wants to lead the conversation. You are right on the spot on.
Let's get South Florida in there.
We will
Absolutely.
have a first very basic foundation workshop for some members of the board, and next week on the use of AI. Maybe the next step, the advanced one, we will do with you.
Thanks. Dorothy.
Yes, once again, Russell, thank you so much. As Eric and Velasquez said, this is a really interesting topic. As you could see, we're all here. And I'm sure some coaches also feels like, I'm wondering how is this going to work with me and my clients and taking the human, the human part out of it out. And as Eric said, that slide you showed, love to know more about it because that might help some coaches understand a little bit more and how can we have that olive branch with AI, not being so intimidated to use it or understand it or learn it to see how we could use it to our benefit to even improve our coaching. So I just wanted to say thank you. And yeah, we look forward to learning more.
May I just make one other quick comment? Sorry, Dorothy, I didn't mean to cut anyone off. Russell, did you? Sorry.
Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. Russell, you highlighted something for me that I had not thought about before. I find AI to be extremely exciting, a little bit terrifying, but I hadn't really deeply considered just how terrifying it must be for C-suite, high-level executives who are really enmeshed in the day-to-day and feel this. It's like, and now what is this big entity coming onto my back and changing everything I know? So you've really invited me to sort of think about what it's like to have been for these executives out there. So and business leaders. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I had not
Shakti.
clarified they must be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I think I lost my train of thought. There was something that was just triggered in my mind. And it goes back, I think it just goes back to this, you talked a little bit about it, about the bias in AI. And I think inherently the human brain tends to be lazy. And like this is what I hear all the neuroscientists say, right? So this is how. So if I think about that, the combination of the human brain being lazy, AI being completely, having no capacity for laziness at all, and us all humans using AI in a way that we have access to it, which is pretty much, unlimited, and all the bias that goes in it, because it, like you said, it works off of what it receives. I don't know. All of those things together, I think it make me a little, I don't know. They make me a little nervous. I don't think that this has anything to do with coaching, but I just wanted to share that because
No, I think it has everything to do with coaching because I think that's our in, really. I mean, I think we could really explode coaching in this era because if we could figure out a way how to work with the human and deal with all of those things. Because you think of an executive dealing, like Eric said, think of a CEO that's thinking the same way you're thinking. Like, how do we help that person figure that out? I mean, there's got to be a way, right? We're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Look at I mean, I'm old enough to have gone to college with no computer. I typed on the typewriter with whiteout because they didn't have computers, right? And now we have them on our phone. So we handled that as humans, right? It's the same kind of evolution in technology. I think it's that kind of a big change, but we handled it. But I think we can jump in there now, and we can, as coaches, we can really. And I'm glad to hear that ICF Global is trying to do something about this because I think that's instead of just saying no, we just work with humans. I think it'd be great if we jump in and say we work with humans that are dealing with this technological disruption and get in the middle of that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Anyone else? Any questions? Well, the contacts you certainly can connect with Russell afterwards in LinkedIn. You can type it and you will find, or you can ask ChatGPT, help me find Russell, and probably you will get to him. So thanks everyone for showing up. I just put on the chat, I will put it again. the link to the survey. We have more things coming up this week still. The week is young. We're still in the half of the week. We have the membership cocktail event coming up today at 7 p.m. where you can show up and share what are your thoughts about the sessions, the week so far, your expectation, what is coming next, and anything else that can happen there. So you're more than welcome to join. And you can check also the remaining events for the week in our calendar and register and join us. And hopefully you can continue this conversation with you moving forward too. So thanks, Russell, a lot. Thanks everyone for joining. I don't know, Dorothy, if you want to say something about what today is.
Oh, you said it for me. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Velasco, we had a great time last night, right? And Shakti.
We had a great time. I suggest you be there with us. We laugh, we share, we connect. We share about the day, but also about where we are in this moment. So, and in a very relaxing way. It was very good.
Bravo.
Hi, Dorothy. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Russell. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Stop the